Stress was originally an engineering term. Now, instead of buildings collapsing, people are collapsing. You can have mental stress, physical stress, emotional stress. Certain amount of stress we can handle, like I've said, but when it becomes excessive, that's when it becomes a problem. Being upset puts stress on your body. Worrying puts stress on your body. Being angry and full of unforgiveness puts stress on your body. But you know what? Luke 10:19 tells us that God has given us authority and power over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means harm us. In other words, every single one of us, you, me, every one of us, God has given us the power, the energy, the strength, the ability to do what He wants us to do, but He will not give us the power, the strength, and the ability to do what He doesn't want us doing. So if you're just deciding what you want to do in life without getting the counsel of God, then you can just go ahead and do it on your own. You won't do it with God's help. But I've learned the hard way, and that's how most of us learn things. I've learned the hard way to always go to God and ask Him to help me in every single thing that I do. We're built for a normal amount of stress, but none of us are built for excessive stress. See, there was a time in my life when I didn't understand what stress was. My mother had a nervous breakdown when I was in my 20s. And for 2 years, she took shock treatments and just had all kinds of problems. She never really was the same after that. She was a sweet woman, but she just, all the extra stress in her life from my alcoholic, abusive father really took a toll on her, and she just always had all kinds of health problems because of that. But because she had had a nervous breakdown, anytime anybody mentioned the word stress to me, I would go to the doctor not feeling good, and they would say, well, it's just stress. And that would make me so mad because I felt like they were telling me that I couldn't handle life, and I was strong. I was a strong woman of God, and I could handle whatever I needed to handle. Well, you know what? That's really not true for any of us. You can handle what God gives you to handle. But when you start trying to go beyond that and do things just because you feel like doing it or you want to do it, or you're a people pleaser and you don't know how to say no to anybody, those are the things that wear us out. Do you complain about your schedule? Well, I've just got too much to do. Well, did you ever think of saying no to some things? I was crabbing about my schedule one time with the Lord. No sane person could be expected to do all that I do. The Lord whispered in my heart and said, you make your schedule. If you don't like it, change it. And see, that's true. If you don't like all the things that you've taken on in life, then start asking yourself if you really need to do all of them. In all probability, you're doing a lot of things because other people want you to, or just because it's what you've always done, and maybe God got finished with it a long time ago and you're still doing it. Ask yourself not just what you're doing, but why you're doing what you're doing. And anything that's not being done with the right motive, cut it out of your life. We always feel like we have to do all these things, but there's a lot of things we don't have to do if we really don't want to. My question today is not, do you have stress? Everybody has stress. My question is are you managing the stress in your life? When it becomes excessive, are you cutting some things out of your life? Are you taking measures to avoid having too much stress? I said, are you taking measures? I don't know why we always think that other people shouldn't pressure us. No, they shouldn't pressure us, but even more than that, we shouldn't allow them to pressure us. We're going to talk, I think, tomorrow about learning how to say no, and that's something we all need to do. You know, every time you get stressed out, your body goes through this cycle. There's a stressor, Your brain recognizes it's under stress. It says something to your pituitary gland. That affects your blood pressure. It affects your adrenal glands. Then your body releases cortisol and cortisone. Then adrenaline is released, and your body just goes through this cycle of stuff. Well, you know, it's kind of like a rubber band. I got a nice new rubber band here. If I just, you know, I can stretch it and it goes back, stretch it and it goes back, stretch it and it goes back. Well, you know, that's what happens to our body. We can stress it, get a good night's rest, and it goes back. You can stretch it, get a good night's rest, and it goes back. You can really stress it, and uh-oh, something breaks. Well, you know what we do a lot of times? We tie a knot in it and just keep going. Well, have you ever had a rubber band that had so many knots in it that you couldn't even tell what it was anymore? I wonder how many knots you have in you. Oh, I've got this big knot in the back of my neck. Oh, I've got this knot here in my shoulder. I don't know what that's from. Well, you know what it's from? It's from doing this all the time. And that knot are the places where you've just tied up and tried to keep going without really eliminating some of the things that you should be eliminating in your life. Organs fail because they get exhausted. Stress causes illness in our body, and even though the illness is real, stress is the root of it. You know, noise is stressful. And I tell you, I don't know. I mean, I like music, but when it is loud and wild, I mean, it just wears me out. Now, if you're 20, you may like that. But I'll tell you, by the time you're 75, it's going to get on your nerves. And I don't think it's good for us. They say that all the high-level noise that young people listen to today even affects their hearing. We live in a very noisy world. We live in a very stressful world. You make one little tiny mistake in traffic and people are ranting and raving at you. There's so much negative talk in the world, so much complaining, and I believe all of that causes stress. And so I want to invite you today to calm down and cheer up. I think that I can prove biblically that that's the answer to most of our problems. John 14:27, Jesus said, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid." One translation says, "Stop allowing yourselves to be upset and disturbed." And I really love that one. That's the Amplified Classic. Stop allowing yourselves to be upset and disturbed. You know, you can feel when you initially start to get upset. Let's just say that you're in a conversation with somebody and it starts to get heated. And you feel those emotions rising, rising, rising. And now the voice levels are rising. Well, you know, why not back out of it before it turns into an extremely stressful situation that's going to just absolutely wear you out? You know, everybody today just says, well, I've got so much stress, I've got so much stress. But my question is, what are you doing about it? Are you doing anything about it other than complaining about it? Any one of us can look at our life, and you could write down everything you do for a week and go back and look at the things that you did that you really didn't need to do, and I can tell you, it would relieve a lot of stress out of your life. If you're exhausted, perhaps it's because Jesus is not being exalted in your life.
We hope you enjoyed this teaching. To get more from Joyce, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a thing.